Hello, Ilana. Hello, viewers. Today we have Ilana Danneman, and Ilana is a physical therapist, I dare to say, with a difference. Ilana and I met when we were talking about a book I had written, but her work pulled me in, and I couldn't just say that I'd done an interview with Ilana. I wanted to find out more about her and showcase the work that she does more. So thank you so much, Ilana, for agreeing to come on the Changemaker series.
Well, it is
your light shines so brightly, and you are making a difference to many special needs people. I'm learning from you that you have made a difference in many ways in the past 30 plus years as a physical therapist. You started as a physical therapist in the 1980s, mid 1980s, but you have done so many different aspects of work around physical therapy that I didn't even imagine existed. You've been a writer for companies involved in providing physical therapy products. You've been a product development person yourself, which means that you have design in your blood. I have a picture of you with a puppet, which means that you aren't just saying, raise your hand to your clients. It's so much more interactive and fun, because that would not be the picture you chose to give me unless it was bringing enjoyment through the work you do to your clients. And you also run that podcast I talked about, and the name is Special Needs in Motion.
Yes.
It's such a resource full of insights and different viewpoints and different tools that you are featuring for parents of special needs children. And on behalf of those parents, I want to thank you especially for those.
Thank you as well.
So let's shift over to you. Would you tell me a little bit about you? Have I left anything out of the introduction of Ilana Danneman?
No, I think I was always a very creative, active child. I spent a lot of times outside, and I was a gymnast. So I didn't really choose physical therapy. I think it chose me. And I say that because my first college roommate, I was planning to study accounting, and she said to me, she goes, "That doesn't sound like you." And I said, "Well, what does sound like me?" And she was pre-med, and she said, I think maybe like in allied health, like physical therapy. And it was almost like a light went off. You know how sometimes you have that aha moment?
Mm-hmm.
So this light went off, and I went and switched my major, just looked into it a little bit. I mean, we didn't have the internet or computers or anything like that. There were only 3 schools in Georgia. And I remember changing my major, my mother saying to me, "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" And I said, "No, I'm not sure, but this is what I'm going to be doing." So anyways, so that's how I sort of stepped into that career path. But just, who I was, my father was always very hands-on. He was a locksmith, and he repaired shoes, but very smart man. And he was always piddling with his hands, always making things for us, to like pick up pine cones out of the yard or things like that. I think I picked up a little bit of that kind of out of the box thinking. Now, sometimes creative people can use their minds for maybe things that aren't so in line. As a kid, I got in trouble a little bit.
Yeah.
Creative, maybe not in the best way, but that creativity, I feel like any attribute you have can be used for good or not good. So I had to really learn how to use that in a way that would be helpful for other people. And I think that is what I try to do.
Okay, so I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, so Ilana definitely has kinesthetic strengths.
Yes.
One of the things that you tend to find with kinesthetic children is that it's hard for them to sit still and be quiet in class.
Yes.
Was that a challenge for you? And if it was, how did that help you to understand the children that you work with now?
Yes, so I definitely had a hard time, and I can remember my mom getting upset with me. I mean, I appreciate the structure that she provided for me, but I just had a hard time doing homework or sitting still. I wasn't a bad student, I just didn't want to be doing it. I think a lot of kids feel that way. And this was back in the 60s, 70s. We had to sit down and do things, paper, pencil, so that gave me, and yes, my, the way I sort of gave myself that self-help was by being outside. I was very kinesthetic, kind of figuring
Mhm.
things out. So yeah, it was interesting because one day I had this sort of epiphany, and I had this caseload of children, right? And I was like, how is it that none of these kids kind of can figure anything out, like like how to sit up or how to, and all of a sudden I realized how it was just so second nature to me. And actually, because it's second nature to me to figure out sort of how to use your body, it actually makes me a very good teacher, because I've had to kind of break it down, because I understand how to like adjust the body to roll over or to sit up. And I realize that the children can't do that. So I'm breaking it down and kind of figuring it out on myself, so that I can then um, work with others who can't do it as easily.
So it's like in your mind, you break it into micro steps and then you help them. Let's do micro step one. You don't have to do
Right,
10 steps.
right. And then I add in the creativity. So, for example, let's say tummy time. Let's just go really basic, like laying on your tummy. A lot of children with special needs, for a variety of reasons. Maybe they've been in the hospital for a long time on their back. Maybe they're just weak. Maybe they have low muscle tone. Maybe there's neurological reasons. But they
Mhm.
don't like being on their tummy or don't want to. So now I understand the mechanics, because I just know what that feels like, right? But now I've got to get creative, because we're not going to torture anybody. We don't want them suffering through these positions. So, I might need to alter the angle. Maybe I need a prop. Maybe I need something softer. Maybe I need to put them on my body or their mother's body or their father's body for tummy time. So, just getting,
Uh,
maybe they need to be on a swing. So that part of the creativity, I love it. It almost like gives me this natural high, when I start
Good.
coming up with
So,
different.
so you are, and that's product development as well. You are experimenting with what variation works best for each child.
Yes.
That's
And
exactly what I found for M. M doesn't like being on her tummy at all.
mhm,
Now she used to have a peg, and I guess that would have made things hard. Um, and so we actually put her on our chest. And
yeah.
when she's on our chest, she'll raise her head, she'll interact with us. She doesn't see, but she can smell us, feel us, etc.
Hmm.
So that resonates with me a lot. But we definitely have to move them forward past that, right? They can't
Yeah.
stick there forever. So you're always pushing the boundaries and stretching them into something more.
Right. And sometimes that makes children uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes families uncomfortable. Um, like you were saying, working in different ways with a child, but I'm also working with a family. Sometimes there's four siblings in the room where I'm working, and they
Mhm.
need a lot of attention. And I'm there for that child, but I can't ignore the fact that there's children jumping around, and they may not have it. Like right now in the summer, a lot of families, they don't have camps. A lot of underprivileged families never go to camp. And so they
Yes.
spend weeks and weeks and weeks at home sitting on a couch with phones. Okay. But they're there. So I can't ignore the fact that they're there. I may need to engage them in the therapy, or maybe bring them something to play with, or, so this is a family affair. it's
Right.
it's not just, the child. But yeah, so I have to get creative, and then also consider the environment and what the family wants. So a screaming child on their tummy might not work well. for that environment. It doesn't really ever work well, but I'm
Right.
saying sometimes we can push those boundaries a little bit. And like, if they're discomforted, I'll tell parents, you know what, let's put them on their tummy and let's count to 10 and then take them off the tummy, because I'd rather have more frequency of tummy time than one long period, that's really
Unbearable for the child.
uncomfortable.
Right.
Right.
How about when you have those 4 siblings jumping around? Have you ever figured out a way, and I'm sure you have, to integrate them into the therapy for the hurt sibling?
Yes. The- My challenge is not integrating the siblings. They want to help, and
Uh,
usually they want to come down, especially the younger ones. My challenge is having the parents allow the siblings to come into the session, because sometimes they want them to go away and be quiet.
yes.
Um, and I've done that with my own children. I've told them to go away and be quiet. It's not a great parenting technique. There are times where children need to be quiet. I understand, but I think a therapy session should be a playful time, because it's not exercise. It's that comes later on. It's really, we're integrating movement into daily activity. So
Right.
I really like bringing the children in. So if parents who are listening hear this, it's okay to allow the other,
Right.
like I feel like the parents think sometimes that the child in need is missing out on their therapy time if the other child comes in. And
Uh,
generally that's not the case. Sometimes it could be if they're super distracting or the other
yes.
child needs a lot of attention. I understand. But a lot of times it really enhances the
I
session.
remember distinctly early in my time as a special needs parent, thinking that when the therapist had time with Emma, I had to be on my P's and Q's. I really needed to be quiet and respectful. I needed not to relax because I had to be hyper focused and vigilant on what you would say, on what you would need. And I needed to squeeze every drop of potential care that Emma could get in this half an hour, 45-minute session.
Right.
And it took me quite a while to realize that if Emma had fun, she was likely to do it for longer and more repetitively
Mm-hmm.
than if she thought it was work.
Yes.
Because we in our lives, we enjoy fun.
Mm-hmm.
And fun can actually bring about so much more progress.
Mm-hmm. I heard something one day. I was just reading a book and I had this epiphany that heaven is a place where you get to do what you love to do without any need for money. Okay. So I added to that, and I was like, heaven is where we as therapists, hopefully nobody needs physical therapy, but if they should, we're doing what we love to do without any need for insurance companies.
Wow. I love that one.
Right? Right? There's no insurance companies. Um, but what if we brought that down to here and now in this world? Okay.
Yeah.
So, right here and now in this world, if we did what we love to do without the focus on money or reimbursement, and I know that's a reality, but if while we're working, we had that in mind, then we're not going to worry about the exact goal that we're working on. We're going to, obviously, we have goals or things we want to accomplish, but by allowing the children to play, allowing the siblings to come in, allowing it to be a family affair, we're going to see this other potential from the child. It's going to come out. And we might actually see some things that they wouldn't do otherwise. So,
Yeah. That's a big one. And I know shifting the mental model of the parent is a challenging thing as a parent who might have very, very set views about things. It took a long time to shift what has shifted, and I know there are many more things to shift in me.
mm,
So thanks for your patience on behalf of anybody else that you're working with. So you mentioned that your roommate actually turned a light bulb on for you and said, maybe PT is the way for you. But let's go back to your background. How did your background influence the path you took and the career you chose?
Yeah, so I would say I didn't realize this till really recently, how empathetic I am, and sometimes to a fault. Okay. Um, and I don't mean I'm the most caring person in the world or anything like that, but just like it's a part of sort of the way I am. And some of it is that I really believe that my mother, when she was raising me, was very stressed. Okay. And I felt so much of that stress. I never really realized it growing up. I mean, then I became, the angry teenager. But she was always kind of sad or frustrated. I mean, she had many happy, loving moments. She was a wonderful mother, gave me a wonderful education, a wonderful home, great cook. I still enjoy being around her, but she was stressed and I felt it, right? I'm not blaming her because we parents are human beings and we have
Yeah.
stresses and we do the best we can raising our children. But I feel like I carried it. And one of the things I used to do was like write poetry. Okay. So, and I've actually have a book I've written on poetry, but um, so I would write, and that was one thing I released. The other thing is I would play outside a lot, but I think that empathy was something undercurrent, like underneath that I didn't realize was drawing me toward helping other people because I just became very empathetic towards her.
Right.
I always felt like I wanted to fix things, make them better for her, like my heart went out towards her. Um, anyway, so I think that was kind of a little bit of precursor. And then you add in the fact that I was very kinesthetic and I was a gymnast. So it just kind of, it kind of came together, but I didn't come up with this on my own, it was just like the empathy was there. And then my roommate mentioned it to me. And it also seemed very practical for me because my parents really struggled financially. And so to me, it was something that was very practical that I get employment with. So I have to be honest, that was another reason I decided it was a good field.
Okay. So when you look at your family, did you have lots of brothers and sisters as well?
I have three siblings. Yeah.
Okay, so there were four. You've actually gone on to have four children as well.
Yes.
Uh, how does having a fairly large family in today's world, how does that fit in with your career as a physiotherapist?
That's a really good question. So I think I sort of learned that things aren't perfect because you have a lot of siblings and everybody, a bunch of different personalities. I've always told my children, you suffer for family. And I don't mean that literally, but I think you do sacrifice. And I think there's a big push today to push everything away, push away from your marriage, push away from your identity, push away, like become yourself. I don't, I'm not in judgment of that, but I feel that there is value in sticking with things and working through it, sticking with your family and sticking by people and being loyal and working on yourself. So I think that my family is very close, with all the struggles that each of us has been through and our siblings and our children and this and that, we have always supported one another. And so that idea, and we're all different. We all have different brains and different ways of looking at things, and our spouses are all different. But I sometimes look at it, each of us as special needs, like you don't have to have something physically wrong with you to have special needs. You can have emotional needs, right? And so I think it's made me just more understanding that people are all just different and we all have needs. So,
Yeah. So when you look at your children, have your PT, um, your extensive PT exposure, has that changed the way you parent, do you think?
Well, I think I started parenting just without any real guidelines. I mean, I was a physical therapist at the time, so for sure I was able to do a little bit better positioning maybe with my children. Two of them had kind of low muscle tone, so that helped me a lot. Um, but I have learned so much from going into families and seeing other parents and how they're parenting. And look, some of them are really tough, and then some of them are, really supportive, and then, all different parents, different types. And I try to adjust and adapt myself to the environment that I'm in. I'm pretty good at that. But yeah, raising kids has been definitely helped me to understand other people's children for sure. And
Wow.
my children have
Okay.
been so supportive as because they're older now. My youngest are 18. They're twins. They're 18. So, but my kids have been very supportive of what I do and my career. And, I think it's kind of cool. So,
Has anybody followed in your footsteps?
no. Yes. They're kind of the artsy type, So, anyways,
Okay.
yeah.
So your career has been an ever evolving one. There are so many different directions that you've gone in. Um, how do you, what led you to make those switches and those changes?
Actually having children. So when my son was like a year old, I went back. I was actually doing spinal cord injury at the time. So
Mm.
working for a facility here in Atlanta. And one of the clients offered me this job working on a catalog for children with special needs. And it was just something I'd never done. But I wanted to sort of get out of the 9 to 5 routine so I could have more time with my son. So that actually was encouragement. And it was interesting because this man that offered me this job, he was a little difficult for everyone else to work with. So they were like, oh, give him to Ilana.
Oh,
And he and I got along very well. And he said, hey, would you like to come, work for this company? And I thought it was just, again, just a whisper kind of in your ear, a suggestion. And I took it, and I learned so much. I mean, I got to learn so much about physical education and teaching and occupational therapy and speech and language because all of those were part of this business, and also about marketing and writing. I didn't realize it, but I really have a little DNA in me from my grandfather. He liked to write, and I think I got some of that. So I've always enjoyed writing. And so I used a lot of those skills there. And I did different things there, but I was still using my physical therapy knowledge and background to work with parents and teachers. But I got to be super creative because we did a lot of product development. So, for example, they may bring in a ball or cushion or material even and say, what can we do with this? And so we would have these brainstorm meetings, and they were so much fun. It's a difference between divergent and convergent thinking. So convergent
yeah,
thinking, right, is where you have to come up with one answer, but divergent is like where we have something and we come up with 20 things we could do with it,
right. It's
right?
like this show I used to look at, and they would give you something and you had to do improv. What could I use this noodle
Right.
for? And the noodle became 100 things.
Right. So that's kind of what we did. And we came up with like gel cushions and weight, like they would have bean bags. We would weight them for children with special needs. They respond better sometimes to weight, particularly children with like sensory processing or challenges or autism. And also I started to notice the things that were colored, things that were weighted, things that were textured, things that vibrated, things, that created motion that the children
Mm.
responded better to, and the teachers loved them and the parents loved them. So that got me thinking more and more and more, right? So I learned a
So,
lot during that kind of hiatus, and I was able to help raise my kids and be home in the afternoons with them. And so,
so you became a better product designer the more you observed, is
yeah,
what I'm reading between the lines. The
yes.
more you would observe about all of the qualities, all of the sensory aspects of what you were dealing with,
Right.
the more you could then stretch those observations into application for your children.
Right. And also I got to take a material or a product and take it out into a school or to a home or even a photo shoot, okay, and watch the children interact with it. And then, ding, 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 ding. And then also be able to write descriptions, that were not just dry. Like, in fact, when I don't know if you know what SEO is, but with Google search and all that, well, I used to
Yes.
write before that, and I got to write like what was inside of me. Okay. It was really fun. It was beautiful. It was, cathartic for me to take something and describe like why it might benefit a child and how they may be able to use it. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, those SEO engines came in and they were like, no, 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 we have to have this word. We have to, and it got sort of dry then, I think.
Right. So you come alive when the two sides of your brain connect, when the empathy gets to get on the page and the science gets to get on the page.
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
And that's what makes our children come alive, or special needs children come alive, because you don't just make them do things, you make them feel things. And that's why they want to do things.
That's right. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Now I'm hearing how you charted your course through your career, but we haven't yet heard how life happened to you, because your career also happened to you as opposed to you choosing where it went. In
Right.
what ways did your career actually get determined by something outside of you?
Wait, ask that one more time. I'm sorry.
In what way did your career get shaped by things that happened outside of you?
Well, right. So for example, being raised by somebody, I'm just kind of rehashing a little bit, but that was, made me super sensitive. And then a roommate suggesting, okay. And that's really interesting because when I applied to PT school, I didn't get in right away. So I was going, maybe I should. And I was on loans. I was borrowing money. So I had to decide whether to go back to school. And I was going to, maybe do recreational therapy or something for a year and try again. And I think it's interesting because when you say, I'm not giving up, I'm going to try again, I got a call like 10 days before the program opened that they had a spot for me.
Wow.
So, and I kind of knew I was like one of the last people to get in the program. So it was interesting because, that was just sort of like how I couldn't have planned that, and there was that spot waiting for me. But I think part of it was like, I said to the universe, like, I'm not giving up, like I'm still going to do this. So that sort of happened to me. And then also, just being offered this job by one of my patients at the Shepherd Center, that just sort of happened to me. And then I also, when the economy kind of went down, that company sort of moved their headquarters. I worked for another company for a little while, and then that company laid me off. And I was, oh my gosh, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to apply in pediatrics because I've been working with children and parents and their products and for so long. And then bam, this beautiful little company offers me this job to do home health that I absolutely love. And so those things just, sort of fell in place. I didn't chart that.
Yeah, that's especially interesting given the times that we live in now.
Right.
There are so many people who have been laid off, whose jobs have sort of disappeared. You haven't even been laid off. There's no work because we have lockdown situations and, government restrictions say we can't open the business. Therefore, there's no income to be had for you.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's easy in any way, but sometimes when a door closes, it's because you're being channeled to go elsewhere.
Yes.
Did you get that feeling when you lost those jobs?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when the company, because I felt like I had turned their company over and I put my heart and soul into it. And when they said, we either we can't afford you, we don't need you, we're making changes, whatever it was. But, I was sad because, you feel rejected. Like you
For sure.
shouldn't take it personally, but we do. We're human beings. And I think though it's just like a GPS recalculating. You know, when you turn the wrong way and it goes recalculating, right? It's just like God, the universe is recalculating you, and saying this isn't where you're supposed to be anymore. You're supposed to be here. But one thing I tell people who are looking for work, and I've told this to my older children, and I will tell this to anybody listening, and I can't make any promises, but if you will go out and start doing what you love to do, something will come your way. And it may not be exactly what you think, but I'll give you an example is I have a friend and she likes to remodel bathrooms, okay? And she just volunteered to go remodel somebody's bathroom who's working on a project. And the neighbors saw that she was doing this, and two of them offered her a job. So this happens all the time, but she couldn't have planned it. And I couldn't have planned my career either. I know there are some people who grow up and say, I want to be a dentist, and they go to dental school and they become a dentist. And that does happen, and that's amazing. But I think a lot of people that just doesn't happen to them. And all of a sudden, life kind of happens to you sometimes. Like you are chosen to be a parent of a child with special needs. That happened to you. It's not something you chose, right? And
Right.
so, or being laid off, things will happen. So we can't control any of that, but we do get to choose how we respond to it, right? And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated, but we have to start to sort of recognize, we have to just step back and recognize the emotion and not let the emotion control us, but then step back and be able to say, okay, I'm sad. Okay, now what am I going to do? And what do I love to do? And so, that's why I started my podcast. I don't make any money doing a podcast. I do it for fun because I love talking to people. And I have some therapists who will say, well, what is this about? Like, what are you going to ask me? And, they're very nice. Said, I don't think you're the right person for my podcast because this is for sharing. It's for connection, so I
Yeah.
think if you're doing what you love to do and you step out there and you just do your best and volunteer if you have to, if you don't have a job right now, go volunteer. I'm telling you, something will come your way.
Yeah.
So that's my
Never give up.
blessing. That's my blessing to everybody.
I love your blessing and I love your advice. So thank you. Before we round up, Ilana, there are two groups of people who will be watching the interview. One group is going to be special needs parents.
Mhm.
Another group will just be any random person, because a lot of the people who look at the videos are people who just face adversity as a part of life
Sure.
and who want to learn how to find more joy and fulfillment in whatever they do. What would your 3 tips be based on what you've learned in all that you do? What
Okay.
would your 3 tips be to help people, whether they are special needs parents or not, to find more joy and fulfillment each day?
Okay, so I could have a lot of tips, but if I have to pick I'll pick three of my favorite. So one is to be curious and not critical. And that's toward yourself, toward your children, toward other people's children that you see. The first thing we do is say, why are they doing it that way? Or, but if we just stop for a second and we are curious, I think this will transcend even having children with special needs. I think this will transcend your relationship to other people, your family, outside your family, and to us as civilizations, to nations, to be more curious and less critical. But when you're with a child, and they're not doing exactly what you want them to do, and you're frustrated, just to take that pause, give yourself that space. The space is very valuable, and allow yourself to be curious, like an investigator. more than critical. And then the other thing I would say is to bring joy into your life. Figure out how to do that. And it could be rolling around on the ground. It could be going outside, it could be turning on music, right? You don't have to have a lot of funds or money to have joy in your life. In fact, some of the people who have less have more joy. So, but choose joy over worry. Because sometimes I see parents that are so concerned, when will my child walk? When will they do this? When will they do that? And that may not be part of their journey. It might be, but you don't want to miss out on the joy in that
In the journey, yeah.
Right? So, choose joy over worry. Just turn it over. Turn it over to God, to the universe, whatever you believe in or don't believe in, but just turn it over and, do joy. And that energy will change your whole environment. So that's the other one. And then the other one, as a therapist and as a human being, I say, choose play over position. So in other words, movement and motion, and maybe this connects a little bit into joy, but we're always, we forget how to play. And I think as adults, like we're talking about positioning a child in tummy time. Well, you get on the floor and you get on your tummy, right? And you sit down with them and you get on the swing and you get in the swimming pool and you go out and play ball, right? So learn how to play again if you have forgotten how. It's a very important part of being a human being. So,
wow. I love that one. I love all of them, but especially that one because, sometimes as adults, we feel I look silly. And adults don't look silly. We need to look like if we have it all together, right?
right.
Get what anybody else thinks. Growl with your child. and whoever has a problem with that, that's their problem, not yours. Your child is going to respond and you are too.
That's right.
That's
right.
wonderful advice. And if we do those three things, I can promise that joy will be with you every single day.
I love that.
Thank you so much, Ilana. I had a blast doing this interview with you.
Thank you so much also. And it's such a pleasure and honor to be here and really an incredible, I just have an incredible amount of gratitude. So thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful week.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.